aspiration was that we would agree that there was only one army in Germany, which was the Russian, the Wehrmacht, his personal army. So with that, Hitler dialed up a notch this group called the SS, and the SS, the job of the SS was to go and murder the private army, so they were called the brown shirts. So the SS went and murdered the brown shirts. So when you look at Hamas today, the relationship between Hamas and Iran, Hamas is a disposable fodder. It's very similar. In my understanding, that this is the SS were Hitler's intelligentsia. But so it looks like the Iranian mullahs have taken that role, and the use of the tragedy is that the Western people who are supporting the Palestinians, they're all on the murder list.
He was kept in one of the units.
They're all on the murder list.
I mean, the Greens, who are fundamentally formed as a homosexual party, let them go over there, see what would happen to them.
That's right.
We would like to hear good news.
Huh?
Good news. We just watched today in Brisbane yesterday. It was
on Sunday.
On Sunday.
The Maoris?
Yeah, Maori. It's amazing. It was supposed to be a pro-Palestinian meeting in the middle of Brisbane. So the local Maori, about 300 people of them, they get together as they're all Christian, so they're all, Bible, who is who. And they put in front about 50 big Maori guys, big Maori guys, and they're making happy. They're not scary. So the Palestinians cancel it. Cancel it. And they take an interview with those guys, and they say, look at Bible, it's Abraham and Isaac and blah blah blah. It's all it's Israeli land.
The main reason they support us is because they see themselves as the indigenous owners of New Zealand, and the Jews are the indigenous owners, and that's why they support us.
Yeah.
Okay, so we start, and we're going to learn parashat VAYEITZEI, some stuff from the Rebbe, but just draw your attention before we start that some of this is challenging, and I'll just give you some pylons as markers of the way. We're going to have a look at this. The concept of evil, the concept of darkness, and what is, because let's start with this, as a matter of logic. If Hashem is all-powerful and omniscient, and he created the world, it is simple logic to understand that he could have created it any way he wanted. So, to ask the question, why is there such and such in the world? For example, evil, darkness, selfishness, stupidity. You have to conclude that since Hashem could have done it any way he wanted to, it must be that the way he did it was the best. I mean, that's a matter of simple logic. If you say that Hashem is infinite and all-powerful, and he creates a world, it's just simple ABC logic to understand that the way he's created it must be the best way. Otherwise, you'd have done a better way. So, when people say that if God created the world this way, maybe he should have done it another way. The first thing to understand about that is that it's nonsense, because the mere fact that he's God and he's creating the world means that it's the perfect way. So what's our problem? Our problem is that if you're a person of conscience and any level of sensitivity at all, then you're deeply wounded by the children's ward, the children's cancer ward in Prince of Wales Hospital. I keep referring to that because when one of our children were very little, they had a serious problem, she was in Prince of Wales, and the exit at that time was through the ward, the cancer ward, the children's cancer ward there, the children's hospital. And you walk through that ward and you see little children with no hair and pale and struggling to smile. I mean, it's very difficult not to. And then there's the horrors that we've had as our nation. Our history has been a gutter of blood. That's the reality of it. So we have this paradox that we believe in a God that is all powerful, all good. If you learn Hasidus, you are enjoined to build a relationship with your God, not just know he exists, but and the more the focus is on your relationship with your God, the difference in the quality to your life. And at the same time, you have inexplicable horror around you. I mean, what's going on in Israel at the moment, this isn't a political share, but it's very difficult not to recognize the negatives, and you can't pretend they don't exist. So they have to be accorded some meaning, and they have to be accorded some meaning which is consistent with our belief that Hashem is all good and all powerful, and so why? And just to take you to the answer to that without giving an answer, because how can anybody give an answer? But one of the reasons that tzaddikim care so much for the coming of Mashiach is that when we have Mashiach, what does Mashiach mean? It means a Gilui Elokus in Teva. It means that there's going to be a revelation of godliness in nature. What does that mean? It means that if a bus carrying 20 children as a matter of nature goes off the road and they're all killed, at the moment we gasp in horror, and why tzaddikim want Mashiach is that then it will be obvious what the good in that is, as impossible as it is for us to imagine at the moment. So one of the things where we need to begin is to understand that there is a concept of light and dark, concept of good and evil, and that it can't be that it's only the good that's of value, because if it was only the good that was of value, what's Hashem doing creating the not good? So, and you might be surprised, I just took this out, I'm sure everybody knows it, but we say in davening every day, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, Yoitza oya uvoirei hoshek. Yoitza means formed. Yoitza means you take cardboard and you make a cup. Boire means to create, yesh ma'ayin, something out of nothing, which is a concept we can't relate to at all. We can relate to forming something out of something. You can make a Kiddush cup out of silver, you can make a phone out of whatever a phone's made out of. We can't conceive of something out of something from nothing. There has to be a causal connection for us because we don't get it otherwise. But at the same time, this brocha sounds like it's round the wrong way, because Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, yotzei oya, he formed light, uvoirei hoshek, and created darkness. You ever thought about that? Ronan, when you're doing your davening, you ever thought about that, those words? How is it possible that we say that brocha every day, that he formed light, right, rearranged light, that was there at some level, because the word is yotzei. But boirei hoshek, he created darkness deliberately, right? So let's understand that it's not an accident. So, and if the question is going to be why, I can't deal with that. I can't answer you that, but I can introduce you to some of the learning in Chabad Hasidus and of our Rebbe in particular, in relation to some of the value of this darkness, of some of the things in relation to that. And just before I do that, I'm just going to mention, we haven't got time to deal with it, but I'm just going to mention that there's a mimer, and I'm saying this for the tape, which the Rebbe said in Tofshin Yud Daled for Rosh Chodesh Kislev. It was printed in last week's Malchus, in which the Rebbe makes an astonishing, very often the Rebbe will take something that you and I have known all our lives, and he'll identify it as something that requires explanation, and you think, oh, yeah. And then when he gives you the answer is pretty simple. You don't understand why you didn't think of the question and you didn't think of the answer. But the Rebbe postulates, like, I'm going to summarize 20 pages in a few inadequate words, but the Rebbe postulates this. He says that light and dark is relative. And he gives some examples. He says that let's take the example of a teacher and a student. If a teacher is teaching a student mathematics, and the teacher is a great mathematician, the student is a 10-year-old kid. So when he teaches the child some maths, the child has a gilui, he has a revelation. So what happens? He has light. He has light in relation to this maths that he didn't know before. But the storehouse of the mathematics, which is in the teacher, for that kid is total darkness. He knows nothing about that. And the Rebbe gives a few examples. Your neshama and your guf. How do you know about your neshama? Because of the giluim, of the revelations. If you move your fingers, you see that when the neshama is separated from the guf dies. So, but do we know anything about our neshama? You don't know anything about your neshama. You don't know whether your neshama is tall or short, or fat or skinny, or kind or... These are things that you don't know. All you know is that there is an energy that invigorates you. You don't even really know much about that, except that it exists. So from the point of view of the guf, of the giloi, of the revelation of the neshama in the guf, you have light. From the point of view of the guf, looking at the neshama, you have darkness. But it's a big paradox, because where's the real game? Where's the storehouse? The storehouse is in the darkness, not in the result. I don't know if I'm explaining this, but this requires a few examples. But let me see what other one the Rebbe uses, because that was so he talks about, for example, thought and speech. So let's do thought and thought first of all. When you and I think, we are accessing what's called a koyach haseichel, right? There's a koyach in the neshama of seichel. But until you express that thought to somebody else, there's no light for anybody else. When you put it into words, all of a sudden there's a giloi of what you were thinking for the recipient. So the recipient has light, but as to your thought process, he's in total darkness. Right? And which is more of etzem, which is more of the essence? The thought's more of essence than the speech. The soul is more essence than the body. So what I hope you're beginning to see is that often the essence of the thing is the dark, and it's only the giloi of the thing, the revelation of the thing, that is the light. So it may be that one has to review your sense of importance of the darkness and the light, because it depends where you stand. I mean, I understand that Einstein invented relativity, but you have to understand that as a matter of Torah, this preceded Einstein by thousands of years. The reality is that, and that's why it may be a bigger Hiddish, maybe a bigger, I don't know how to translate Yiddish properly into English, because the word is revolutionary or newness or a brand new idea. But Yiddish means something completely new. So the Yiddish is not the light. The Yiddish is the darkness. And that's why in the brocha we say yoitza oya, that we form the light, that Hashem formed the light. Why? Because before creation there was light. And he creates darkness. Now, in the account of creation, I didn't bring a chumash, but in the account of creation, it says, Vayehi erev vayehi boker yoyim echad. It was evening, it was morning one day, and the darkness is mentioned before the light. So, in Hasidus, the question is asked, well, does God prefer the darkness because he did it first? And then we answer, no, it can't be that, because it says that Hashem saw the light and he saw that it was good. Remember that? Saw that it was good. He doesn't say the darkness is good. He says the light is good. So the Giloi is good. The revelation is good. At this stage, the only point I'm going to leave this part of the shir, and I just want to make the point that I'm introducing you to the concept that there is a purpose for the darkness. That what that purpose is, we don't understand necessarily. We don't understand Hashem. We try to think with our tiny little brain. It's a joke compared to the infinite wisdom and of Hashem, but there is certainly a positive aspect to darkness. Let's just get that on the table for the moment. As to what it is, we're not there. Now I want to tell you something else quickly, because otherwise we won't get to the shir. When the Rebbe took over the Nesius in 1951, his first maamar was a maamar called Ba'osi Lagani. And in Ba'osi Lagani, the Rebbe amplifies the first chapter of another Ba'osi Lagani maamar, which was said by the Frierdiker Rebbe as his last maamar on earth. He said, I won't go into it, it's in various parts to be learned on various occasions. We haven't got time for that now, but the maamar contained one thing that I want to go through with you. It contained the fact that when a Jew is confronted with a temptation to do evil, bad, darkness, and he deals with that without succumbing to it, he adds light in the world. That's one of the fundamental points in the Friedrich Rebbe's Maimon. What light does he add? Technically, he adds to the light of Soiviv Kol Almin, which I won't go into now, but that's in all the worlds equally. I won't go into that now. What does it mean that he doesn't succumb to evil? There are two words used. One is eskafia and one is eschapcha. Eskafia means a refusal to do it. You just refuse to do it. Doesn't mean that it's not attractive. Somebody puts a piece of a bottle of Trafe wine in front of you, and you're a wine lover, and there's no other wine, and it's beautiful wine, and you want to drink it. You're a human being. You've got a nefesh habahamis. You want to drink it. You've got a VAYEITZEI. You want to drink the wine, and you refuse to drink the wine. That is called eskafia. That means that you're refusing. And when that happens, we learn that man grows. And not only does he grow, but he elevates everything around him. He elevates his wife and his children and the room that he's in and the chair he's sitting on and everything in him. And he adds light. Now, what is that light? Is he adding essence? He's not adding essence. He's adding giloi. He's adding revelation of light. Do we see it? We don't see it, unless you're a Rebbe. But that's the lower form of reaction to this evil. The next level, the higher level of that, is that instead of just saying no to it, you take that evil and you convert it to good. That's called eskapcha. That's a different level altogether. You take the bad and you work with the bad, the darkness, and you convert the darkness into light. Now, the reason, and this is probably as heavy a Hasidus shir as you'll ever hear in terms of the essence points of this, the building blocks of it. Because at the end of the day, this is the whole purpose of a Jew. This is the whole reason a Jew's born. And you get monumental Maimorim to signal this to us. Sure, you go along and you listen and you get a bit of it and everything, but the enormity of it escapes people, and it's criminal. The Friedrich Rebbe, the last mimer he said, after 70 years of being one of the world's great geniuses, was this mimer all about eskafia and eskapcha, all about bringing light out of darkness, all about implying that the darkness itself is a value, but not a value in itself, but a value in the sense that it is the raw material to make kedusha, to make holiness out of. So it has a value. And then our Rebbe, starting off his Nasius with a whole mimer on just that ois, on just that chapter on this area, and then unlike, and you have to understand something else, that in Chabad, contrasted to, say, the Polish Rebbes with their Hasidim, how they worked was the Rebbe would learn Hasidus, the Rebbe would be a very holy man, and everybody else would warm their hands and feet on his fire. Right? That's not the way of Chabad. And at the first mimer, the Rebbe said, if you think that's what we're going to be doing, forget it. You've got to go to work. You've got to go to work yourselves. And what are you going to be doing yourselves? Eskafir and eskapcha. Saying no, that's the lower level. At least you've got to do that. But hopefully you'll be able to work with it and now, so you know that just as a just flagging this for if we get time to get to it. we're talking about the difference in a avoider of a tzaddik and a Baal Tshuva. Because the tzaddik doesn't get tempted by bad, doesn't get tempted by evil. It's like somebody puts a bowl of warm vomit on the table and invites you to eat. Are you going to eat? You don't want to eat. Are you tempted to eat? You're not tempted to eat. Is there any risk you'll eat? No risk you're going to eat. Why? Because it's disgusting to you. That's what darkness is to a tzaddik. And therefore the tzaddik, his value is being that sort of, in the presence of that sort of person, some of it rubs off. And you admire it, and you sit at the feet of somebody like that, and you are elevated to a certain extent by his goodness. That's not the way of Chabad. The Rebbe wasn't interested in that, not interested at all. And we're not dealing with tzaddikim, we're dealing with ordinary people who have a yetzer hara, who have a lust for things that they love, and if those things that they love are negative, that lust will never leave them. Never. No matter how many times you say no to it, no matter how much you work with it, it will never leave you. And is that fair? That's a whole different question. But in chapter 12 of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe explains that the job of what's called a Beinoni is to overcome these lusts and desire all his life, and it's never going to go away. If you like chocolate ice cream, you're going to always like chocolate ice cream. You like girls, you're always going to like girls. Some poor man wrote a letter to the Rebbe saying that what can he do? He has a lust for men, a man. And the Rebbe wrote this unbelievable letter. It's about 4 pages long. It's a pity it's not in English, but it's the most sensitive letter I've ever read in my life. That he says, first of all, and the guy asked the Rebbe a question. He said, why am I being tested with this? And the Rebbe answers him. He says, first of all, his answer is, I don't know why you're being tested. He said, I know one thing, that you must have a huge neshama in this area, because it's not my test. I don't have that test. I don't know what you're talking about. And if you're being tested with this, you can be absolutely sure that you have the equipment to deal with it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be getting the test. Otherwise, Hashem would be a sadist. So, I don't want to go into any test in particular. Everybody has their challenges. Everybody thinks their challenges are more difficult than everybody else's. They're not. Everybody has exactly the challenges they need. But the reality is that by being a human being with a yetzer hara and having to confront one's own lusts, avoiding them and converting them brings light out of darkness. And that is, for some reason, the main game. That's for some reason the main game. And so, now, this Sedra exemplifies the learning that we often have, that the name of the Sedra contains its soul. The spiritual essence of the Sedra is in the name of the Sedra. This Sedra is called VAYEITZEI. VAYEITZEI means, and he went out. And you need to know that this is one of the deepest, most personal instructions that a father can give his children, his grandfather give his grandchildren, because this is a Jew's life. You know that show, This Is Your Life? This is the essence of a Jew's job, to go out. We have, let me tell you, in the Torah up till now, think of how many goings out there were. There's Adam and Hava in the Gan Eden. They have to exit Gan Eden. Gan Eden is a place where there was not even a potential for evil. They had to exit Gan Eden. Then there's Noach. Noach is in a spiritual teva, a spiritual ark, and he's told he's got to leave the ark. There comes a time when he's got to leave the ark and he's got to go into the world. The world's been cleansed. The world is now pure. There's no evil, but there's a potential for evil, and it comes very quickly. Then you have Avram Avinu. His father said that Lech lecha me'atzcha, go out of your house, go out of your land, go out of your birthplace, and to do something. We're going to see what that doing is in a minute. But again, he had to leave his home. He had to leave, and then Yaakov is in danger of being killed by his twin brother, and his mother tells him to leave and to go to Haran. Haran means, in Hebrew, means anger. It was the lowliest, worst place in the world. So what's all this leaving? And if I can put 3-4 sikhas together into a general principle to hold on to, what we're talking about here is that you and I are born hardwired with our nefesh abamis, animal soul, with a nefesh elokis, with a godly soul, which is equipped to live its life. And every human being's life is entirely different to his neighbours. It looks the same in some ways. We all drive cars, we all eat. But each person lives subtly, totally different lives. Why? Because they have different challenges. Why? Because the whole game is that each person has got to contribute light. Light to the darkness. What's the darkness? The darkness is that we don't know what the plan is. We don't know what's in Hashem's mind. We only can deal with the giloi. We can only deal with and make light, make more light. So every time we manage a nisoyan, a test, a challenge, then we add light. We turn on another switch. We add more light until will come a point, which we learn, and it's a very difficult point to believe, I find. I mean, everybody has their own test, but for me it's difficult, that we're going to have Mashiach. And when we have Mashiach, then the darkness will become clear to us. It'll become part of the Giloi. At the moment, it's partially clear, a little bit clear. It's clear to this extent that we understand that the negatives in our life, you can approach it at various levels, right? Nebok, you're ignorant. It's not your fault. You've never learned any Torah, never learned any Chassidus. You believe in good luck, bad luck. You believe that if you work hard, you'll be rich. If you jog, you'll be healthy. If you beat up your children often enough, they'll behave. That's one way of living a life. Then that's the way an animal lives his life. That he's gratified by what he wants, and he avoids what he doesn't want. Then you get more sophisticated, you begin to learn some Torah, you begin to learn some Chassidus, and you begin to learn that there's a purpose to your life, that you're a shliach of Hashem, to make a dir b'tachtonim, to make a dwelling place for Hashem in the physical world, and that for that you have certain equipment, and for that you're going to have certain tests to work with that equipment. And that's a much bigger level. And then you can get to the level where you understand that there can be no bad coming from Hashem, because it just is a self-contradiction. So you tell me that there's pain, and you tell me that we've got a history of a gutter of blood, so there has to be a value. What is that value? We don't know yet. You know, the Friedrich Rebbe, when he was asked about the Holocaust, he said, I'm not God's lawyer. I'm not going to justify God doing that, because there was a famous argument